The Fresno Chaffee Zoo, formerly known as the Roding Park Zoo, opened in the 1920s but was not recognized until 1929. The zoo housed many unwanted animals and was a place for people to visit when they wanted to get out of the house. Little is known about the zoo's formative years because no records were kept. We do know that the animals were kept in small cages that were not improved for many years. Today, the zoo is home to 190 species of animals and over 40 of them are endangered. In this documentary, we hope to dive into the rich history of the zoo, the improvements it has undergone, and the conservation efforts the zoo takes to help protect its animals. When the zoo first opened in the 20s, it housed animals like dogs and cats, but they also kept bears, birds, and hoofed animals. The zoo was growing at a rapid pace for many years, and as animals were being added, they were not given enclosures big enough to house them. By the 40s, the zoo was seeing considerable improvements thanks to fundraising. The animals' enclosures were changed to grotto-type exhibits. In the late 40s, the Fresno Zoological Society was formed, which gave the zoo even more opportunity to raise money for any improvements that they needed. Thanks to this, the zoo was able to take on more exotic animals and even began to house aquatic animals. These animals included apes, rhinos, hippos, sea lions, giraffes, and many more. In the 70s, the zoo had grown even more and introduced one of its first educational programs aimed at educating children on many different animals. The zoo also built its first major exhibit during this time, the reptile exhibit. Today, it is home to over 40 reptile species. We had the opportunity to interview Andrew Christensen, who worked at the zoo for 15 years and also helped develop the reptile room as well as many other programs there.
Hi, my name's Andra Christensen, and I am a retired master teacher and currently working as a textile artist. But for 15 years, I worked with the Chaffee Zoo. Well, when I first came to the zoo, I was 17, and I was a volunteer, and I worked with the keepers. And after that, a job opened up in the baby animal nursery, and that's where I went. So when they were designing that reptile house, I got to sit in on those meetings and have, ideas contributed. We worked with another local herpetologist and some zoo people and just kind of sketched out what it might look like. If you go in the reptile house, all of those exhibit, each one is a separate microclimate controlled by a computer. And back then that was state of the art.
The reptile house was built in 1979 and now houses more than 40 species of reptiles.
In talking about the zoo, we cannot forget to mention Doc Chaffee and Nosey the elephant, who have had the biggest impact on the zoo. Dr. Paul H. Chaffee made many significant improvements on the lives of animals at the zoo during his 28 years of work there as a veterinarian.
Doc was like our dad, our zoo dad. I just loved him. He loved the animals. He believed passionately in wildlife conservation around the world. And he built that zoo up. He designed a master plan. He got the community involved. He raised money, and he brought the attention to the zoo.
He made sure that all animals were given the proper care, habitats that had close resemblance to life in the wild and were suitable to their sizes, and the animals were getting nutritional meals that fit their specific needs. It is so important for animals to get all these things because it allows them to act how they would in nature. By giving them enclosures that mimic their natural habitats, they can engage in behavior that they would in the wild, which can reduce the animal's stress and prevent them from developing physical health problems as they get older. This reduced stress also means the animals are less prone to exhibiting aggressive behaviors towards carers and members of the public. As well as providing proper enclosures, it is just as important for the animals to receive nutritional meals. Nutritionally packed meals make sure that the animals stay healthy and don't become malnourished or develop physical health problems. Thanks to Doc Chaffee, these animals at the Fresno Chaffee Zoo have been able to receive the proper care they need while living out their lives at the zoo. Doc also became the director of the zoo in 1965. As the director, he was very focused on conservation efforts and educating the public about animals and their habitats. Because of all Doc's amazing efforts during his time at the zoo, when he passed away in 1990, the zoo was renamed and the Chaffee Memorial Zoo Hospital was built, all in the honor of a man who had such a great impact on the zoo. September 11, 1949, Nosey the elephant arrived at the Fresno Chaffee Zoo. She was bought with donations from the Fresno Rotary Club and the public. School children then had the job of naming her. They sent in any pocket money they had in the hopes of the name they wanted being chosen.
We interviewed Laura Robinson, a former volunteer who had many fond memories of the zoo.
My name is Laura Robinson, and I lived in Fresno from 1971 to 1990. We went to the zoo when I was a child, for sure, but as I got a little bit older, my mother actually became a docent there. And one of the reasons she got involved was because I did a summer camp at the zoo, which I really, really enjoyed. And they had a volunteer zookeeper program for teenagers. And so I got to do that for a couple of summers. I think the threshold was 16, but because they knew her and she was a docent, I was able to get in at 15. So I did the 2 summers, possibly 3. So it probably would have been the summer of 79 and the summer of 80. I worked at the zoo.
A lot of people mentioned Nosey the elephant. Do you have any experience with the elephant that you'd like to share? Any happy memories about the elephant?
Yeah. Well, I always really liked Nosey. We were, so, there was the enclosure, and this is typical of most zoos, right? So you've got the enclosure that holds the animal, and then there's some distance, right, and a fence.
Yeah.
Okay, so that keeps you away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, we were in between the two for some reason. I can't remember. And she put her trunk out and we were petting her and, talking about whatever we were talking about. And we kind of stopped paying attention for a minute. And all of a sudden she reached out and wrapped her trunk around my arm and started pulling me towards the enclosure. And I don't know what she wanted, but she was really, really strong. And Mary had to come on, get her off of me. It was very crazy. Yes. So, but she was a sweet elephant. For all I know, she just wanted a kiss.
From 1947 to 1982, Nosey lived in an asphalt enclosure but was soon moved to an improved exhibit that was better suited to her size. Nosey's old enclosure was converted into a gift shop named after her. In 1993, after 47 years of life, Nosey passed away. On her birthday, a memorial sculpture was placed in front of the elephant exhibit.
The zoo experience does not just stop at seeing the animals. Children and adults are given the opportunity to learn more about the animals in their natural habitats through educational programs offered at the zoo. During the summer, children can attend a 5-day-long summer camp at the zoo where they learn all about what it is to be a zookeeper. They can learn about the care it takes to specialize in one animal's specific needs, be an event, or even being an educator. Some other camps the zoo offers include Zoo Camp, Ruin You, Zoo Overnights, Single Day Camp, Zoo Talks, Docent Tours, Family Zoo Overnights, and Science Saturday. The zoo also offers behind-the-scenes tours where people have the opportunity to pick out of 10 different animals to learn about. These tours take about 30 minutes to an hour and have a 6-member capacity, but give people the opportunity to interact with the animals. The zoo also offers educational material to teachers, and they have the Zoomobile. The Zoomobile is for those who can't make it to the zoo. It travels to senior centers and schools, educating people of all ages about reptiles, mammals, birds, and aquatic animals.
It was fun because we developed the Zoomobile, and he worked with us, and I can remember we didn't have a Zoomobile, we had our cars, so I can remember driving snakes and baboons and things around in my little Toyota Corolla.
And there was a gentleman named Randy who would take the Zoomobile out with a variety of animals, and he would visit schools. And I actually rode with him several times. Yeah. And that was really neat. I know we had a ferret that we would take, and there was a boa constrictor called Julius Squeezer. So we would take the boa constrictor and, sometimes other snakes. It was an amazing experience for them. And as a result, an amazing experience for me to watch that world kind of open up, right?
Along with the zoo's educational resources, they make many conservation efforts. The zoo is home to over 40 endangered species, and they focus on protecting and preserving the lives of these species. For the 2024 year, they are putting on the Coexistence with Wildlife campaign to bring awareness about hundreds of California species that are close to being endangered.
The Chicoan peccary's populations are threatened by habitat loss and overhunting. They are one of the many endangered animals at the Fresno Chaffee Zoo. And the difference between them and pigs is their teeth. They have canine teeth and that are small and straight, while pigs have canine teeth that grow and curve.
The zoo also has a wildlife conservation fund. People can donate to this fund, and the money goes to furthering research on conservation and sharing knowledge with the public. Some of these animals that the money goes towards helping are cheetahs, pumas, the California condor, island foxes, zebras, rhinos, tigers, and many more. This fund hopes to protect the population of these animals, teach people the impact these animals have on nature, protect their habitats, and reduce human interaction, and bring awareness to illegal poaching.
The zoo matters because it gives the public insight into these animals' lives we might not have known about before. The zoo connects people with wildlife, allowing them to learn about habitats, animal behavior, and how people have major impacts on animal life. The zoo also works to protect animals from extinction or becoming any further endangered through their conservation efforts. But the zoo does not only focus on animals, it also fosters a community environment where people can come together.
The zoo really is, if it's done right, it's an ambassador and a connection to the wild animals and wildlife. And because most people are not going to get to go there.
It's animals in cages, right?
Mm-hmm.
And looking back on the Chaffee Zoo, I understand why people feel that way. Mm-hmm. But I also know in this day and age, so much of it, oftentimes the animals in the zoos are rescues. Mm-hmm. They can't be put out in the wild. They wouldn't survive. And, so much time and thought and energy is put into their enrichment, which I think is wonderful. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a warm and fuzzy for people because they think of their families, right? You take your children to the zoo and, you have the snacks and you walk around and look at the animals. And the zoo presents a window to the world that a lot of people won't get the opportunity to see in person. Yeah. And I think that's really important too, just broadening that perspective and thinking about these animals as entities as opposed to just, it's not human, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's really important for people to develop empathy, for the plights of animals that are endangered. And the zoo is an excellent place to educate people about things like that.
Mm-hmm. The Fresno Chaffee Zoo holds a very special place in many people's hearts and is loved by all of Fresno. Shown on screen are some memories of the zoo, and these memories show just how impactful and important the zoo is to many people around the world. As we've reached the end of this documentary, we would personally like to thank Andrew Christensen and Laura Robinson for taking the time to be a part of this, as well as thanking everyone else who was involved. Thank you for watching and learning about the important and rich history of the Fresno Chaffee Zoo.